Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over two upcoming minor winter storms that are going to be moving throughout parts of the northern plains into the Great Lakes and then mainly impacting parts of the interior northeast, although some parts of the coastal northeast as well could get in on a little bit of that snow or rain. We're going to be timing it out for you guys as well as giving you my first look snowfall forecast for this event. I might update this in another video if there is any major changes with this event, but it doesn't look like this will change too much, so that'll be at the end of today's video. And again, we're just going to be timing it out for you guys and giving you my general thoughts on what I think will happen with this event. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. It's not too active in over especially the southern half of the country. There pretty much isn't anything going on from North Carolina to California, but you go into the northern half of the country and that's where you have more of your winter weather related alerts. You have some winter storm warnings and avalanche warnings back through parts of Montana and Washington, as well as some winter weather advisories scattered throughout parts of the northern Rockies, as well as a little bit of Washington there. And then we have some high wind warnings in effect for parts of South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana, with some parts of the Dakotas and Washington, Idaho, and Oregon getting involved with some winter weather or some wind advisories there. Now we have some winter weather advisories also in effect for northeastern Montana, as well as a bigger area over parts of the northeast in general. There are a couple pockets where they've put down those winter weather advisories, but that actually, this storm has actually a little bit outperformed, especially over some areas of the Washington, D.C. area. They got half an inch to an inch in some of those areas, so nothing too major and nothing too deviant from what the forecast was, but they did get a little bit extra snowfall if you live pretty much anywhere within this area, but everything else is going according to plan so far with the system, so there weren't really too many big hiccups with the forecast. The only other thing that happened different with this forecast is that there was actually some heavier banding through much of northern Iowa, so there was actually a good chunk of the state that got 6+ inches of snowfall. Now, here's what the high temperature for yesterday was. It was in Falcon Lake, Texas, which is in extreme southern Texas there on the Mexican border. They got to 89 degrees, and your low temperature for the entire nation, the continental United States, was tied between two areas in northern Maine, Escort Station, Maine. They got to negative 16 degrees Fahrenheit, and then 23 miles northwest of Clayton Lake, Maine. They also got to negative 16 degrees, and then your highest precipitation or rainfall report was in Quinault, Washington. Hopefully I said that correctly. They got 1.44 inches of rain, and the highest snowfall report was in Onawa, Iowa. Hopefully I said that one right as well. A couple tricky names at the end there. They got 9.5 inches of snow, but again, that general area from eastern Nebraska all the way to northern Iowa did get 6+ inches in most of those locations. Now, here's what the expected radar is going to look like in just a couple of hours. This is by later today. Now, this is the general United States view, and we're gonna kind of zoom in a little bit, but before we do that, we do have to kind of break down what's happening with the pattern, what is going to be impacting these two storms. So here's your first storm. You could probably barely pick it out there, but it's that little pocket of rain and snow back through Minnesota, and then your second storm is going to be right after it, following it by just about 12 to 18 hours behind it. That's your next system. That's going to be moving a little bit further to the north than the first system. We have your system, which is currently moving throughout parts of the northeast back through into parts of New England. And that's going to be pushing away further to the east, and this low pressure to the north is going to be surprisingly important because otherwise these systems would just kind of skyrocket further to the north, but that's not going to happen this time because we have this right here that's going to help suppress these, push them further and further to the south. It's still going to be a fairly northern track. They're going to move through North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and then back through the interior northeast, but it won't go all the way up into Canada like some other systems this year have. It's going to be more a little bit further to the south than what some of the other storms this year has have tracked through. Now you are going to have some kind of windy conditions on the front side of these two systems. I think it will die down in terms of the winds on the back side of these storms, but for Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe even into the early part of Thursday, watch out, especially if you live in the central and northern part of the country. Watch out for some gusty winds, gusting to about 25-30 miles per hour at their peak. So nothing too crazy, but just watch out for some gusty winds here and there. Now let's zoom in and let's start taking a look at this. I am using a different model than I typically use. Normally, I would just use the high resolution European model, but I've noticed that the NAM model has done very, very well, including with this system so far. We've seen very good performance out of this model, so I want to try it out in a video, use the NAM's prediction for the kind of the radar for this video. So hopefully you guys do enjoy it, and I think I'm definitely going to start using the NAM a lot more. It's really done very well with most of these storms, getting the general idea, where other models like the European, the GFS, really have just not been too good at presenting what's going to actually happen. So this would be by Monday night or tonight, and then getting into later tonight into tomorrow morning. We're dealing with that first shortwave trough moving throughout parts of Michigan, somewhat like that. That's going to continue moving to the north and to the east. Overnight, it will get colder, meaning that you will have some of those rain showers turn over to snow in much of Michigan, into a little bit of Wisconsin even. And then we start to see your next system out all the way on the left-hand side of your screen. We're going to zoom into the northeast, but then we're going to bring it back and talk about this next system. And that snowfall forecast, by the way, at the end of the video is going to include both of these storms. So this would be by tomorrow morning into the early afternoon hours, and we're starting to see some of that snow with this trough continue to move further to the east. We're going to see some of that snow head into parts of upstate New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, especially eastern Ohio, northern Pennsylvania, western New York. Some of those snow showers are really going to have a tough time getting too far to the south. I think if you're south of basically this line right here, I really don't think you're going to see too much in the way of snow. Not because it won't be cold enough. It should be fairly cold. It might be a little bit warm on the southern end of this, but it's mainly going to be because this storm is a little bit too far to the north for you guys to even get in on any precipitation. So we're going to have to watch how far south that line of snow or rain is going to get. Now this would be by later on Tuesday, so Tuesday in the early afternoon, right around 1 o'clock, and this is when the next system starts to come into play. So here's your next system back through here in North Dakota and Minnesota. Here's your first system back through here. That's going to be sliding to the east, as this one also slides to the east. This second system right here on the left hand side is going to have a lot more of a northern track. It will still take a fairly similar track, although I don't think areas further to the south, so for example areas in Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, parts of southern New England, I really don't think you guys will get too involved with this next system, just because it's going to go slightly further to the north and it will be a little bit weaker. Now this is going to continue sliding further east. Tuesday evening, it is starting to pull into the area, so for parts of the northern plains into the Great Lakes, you guys are now starting to deal with a little bit more snowfall. And then that system continues to move through. It's in Wisconsin by this point. This would be by Wednesday in the morning hours. Now this is crossing over into Lake Michigan by Wednesday early in the morning, so right around 3 a.m. Central Time. We're dealing with more of that snow back through Michigan, Wisconsin, and then let's zoom in here. You see that snow through parts of northern Michigan, the UP of Michigan, even into southern Ontario there. That's where we're dealing with more of your snow moving through. That system heads further to the east. This would be by Wednesday right around the early afternoon, so right around 12 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We're dealing with that system moving through southern Ontario, about to head into southern Quebec, and we're still dealing with some scattered rain or snow showers back through parts of upstate New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, even still maybe even into Wisconsin there, and then that's gonna again slide over to the east. We're dealing with more broken up scattered rain or snow showers. It will be a little bit too warm on the southern end of the system, so basically anywhere within this area right here, it's probably going to be more of a rain event if you get any precipitation out of the second system. The first system you might get a little bit more snow, but the second event, it's just going to be too warm. So even if you do see a little bit of precipitation, most likely it's going to be in the form of some rain instead of snow, just because it will be a little bit too warm. You might even have some mixing issues all the way back through parts of upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So it will definitely be a little bit warmer on Wednesday, and that should allow for a little bit more in the way of some rain or snow mixing for parts of the interior and northeast. And then by Wednesday night, it's really heading out, and by Thursday morning, we mainly just have snow showers coming off of the Great Lakes, coming off of some of the rivers in parts of Canada and the interior and northeast. So just general snow shower activity back through parts of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York. It still might be windy, by the way, by Thursday. I think, again, by Thursday night, Friday, this is when it really really starts to calm down with the winds, and you really don't see too much in terms of winds. It will be a fairly gusty day, several days from about later tonight into Thursday morning, maybe even into the early afternoon. So here's what the snowfall forecast is from the NAM model. Now, this is not my forecast, but this is how much snowfall the model that we just looked at is putting out. And again, that area that I highlighted in red, that's where most of that snowfall is not going to be occurring from this system. It's going to be what already happened or what is already happening with this system that's going through today. So this is mainly not from that system. This is just counting all of the snowfall through Thursday morning. Most of that snowfall over the interior northeast into the northern Great Lakes and into the northern plains. And that's mostly from the next two systems here. We're dealing with 2 to 4 inches of snowfall generally through parts of central Minnesota, even into eastern North Dakota, back through northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, northwestern Michigan. I think as you get into northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and northern Michigan, you guys might be able to get some 4 to 6 inch amounts, but it should be generally scattered throughout those areas. And then through parts of the interior northeast, it's a general 2 to 5 inch event with some pockets of 6 plus here and there throughout some of those higher elevation regions. Now here's another model, and what it's showing. We're just going to show two different models because most of them generally have that same idea. Now one big issue or one big change from the two models, and it's not too big of a difference, but there is some disagreement here on where exactly that line of snow will set up in the northern plains. If you remember, the NAM model had this area right here under heavy snowfall, and you can see it's a little bit different from what the European model is showing. The GFS and most of the rest of the models agree with the NAM that it's going to be a little bit more like this, and it's going to be further into eastern North Dakota rather than northern North Dakota. That's just one slight disagreement, but other than that, they have fairly similar amounts and not too much disagreement beyond that. So I really don't think I'm going to have to switch up my forecast. I might update you guys again on the snowfall forecast depending on if there is anything that changes, of course. So here's the Weather Prediction Center's probability chances of seeing over 2 inches of snowfall from Tuesday or tomorrow morning into Thursday morning. And that should encompass the entire event, pretty much the entire two events for the most part. If you're in the light green, that's where you have a 10% chance. In the darkest green, that's where you're at a 30 to 40% chance. And then in the lighter blues, that's where you're at 70 to 80% chance. So that's your general idea of what all the colors on the screen mean. And if you ever have a question on that, it's all the way over here on the left hand side there. But for much of these areas in the northern Great Lakes, we have a fairly decent shot, as well as for parts of the interior northeast, we do have a fairly decent shot of at least getting 2 inches of snowfall. And then your chances for 4 inches, of course, they go down a little bit. I think they could increase this a little bit, probably with the next update. They'll probably add another area right through here because it does look like there's some chance at least that they get 4+ inches. But you can see that's mainly restricted to parts of the interior northeast, where it looks like you have at least maybe a 30, 40, even 50+% chance in some of the Adirondacks. And then you even have a chance of 8+ inches, although I think it's highly unlikely. 5 to maybe even 10% chance back through some of the Adirondacks, as well as some of the higher terrain in Quebec and Ontario, Canada. Now here's my snowfall forecast for this event, and you can see I'm fairly in agreement with especially the NAM model. It's done very, very well, so I'm going to kind of stick with it so far until it starts to underperform. Under an inch of snowfall for many of these areas in the northern plains, the upper Great Lakes, back through much of the northeast, except for coastal New England, as well as some of these areas in the mid-Atlantic. This is where I think the precipitation on the first system might not get that far to the south, so I pushed that a little bit further to the north. So this is my under an inch line here. So this is maybe a coating of snowfall, a light dusting of snowfall on some of the colder surfaces. Here's where I think it might actually start to accumulate to a decent degree, 1 to 3 inches through eastern North Dakota, northern Minnesota, except for kind of a bowl shape through the extreme northern part of Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, much of the UP of Michigan into northwestern and western Michigan in general, and then northern Pennsylvania, southern New York, and as well as the Adirondacks, back through into parts of Vermont, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and northern Maine. That's where I'm looking at 1 to 3 inches of snowfall, so this is when it actually starts to accumulate to a decent degree. And then here's that 3 to 6 inch area. You can see I have a little dot there in North Dakota, as well as another stripe from central and northern Minnesota into northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, northwestern Michigan, and then a couple more dots through Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, and into New Hampshire, with some more pockets through the Adirondacks, the Green and White Mountains in Vermont and New Hampshire, and parts of northern Maine. So some of the higher terrain is where I think you could get 3+ inches of snowfall. The main 4 to 6 inch amounts, again, are going to be restricted to the upper Great Lakes. That's where you might get some lake effect enhanced snowfall that should allow for maybe a few accumulations over 4, even 5, 6 inches of snowfall. And I can't even rule out maybe a 6+ inch report in northern Wisconsin or the lower UP of Michigan. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.